Make it on screen.
Thank you, Rosie. So our guest today really does need no introduction. Mr Brexit himself, Nigel Farage, former UKIP leader, front man of the campaign to leave the EU, MEP, radio presenter. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
Very big day.
Huge day. It's certainly the biggest vote for 50 years, maybe the biggest vote since 1940, since the famous Norway debate. And constitutionally, given this battle that's going on with the Speaker and whether he allows amendments or not, arguably, it's the biggest constitutional crisis since the 1640s. So it's huge stuff.
Yeah, and you say that with a smile as if it's all fun and games.
No, it's
but
awful.
it's actually, it is terrible.
It's awful.
It's carnage. And you have to take responsibility for it, don't you?
I don't have to take responsibility for our political class ignoring the will of the people of this country. Let's be clear. We didn't just vote for this to leave the European Union in a referendum. We backed it up in a general election where over 80% of people voted for parties that said we will honour the result of the referendum.
Well, sort of, yeah.
Well, that's what they said. They couldn't have been clearer.
Well, they were manifesting.
And then, do you know, 500 MPs voted for Article 50.
And many regret it.
500 of them.
Yeah.
Well, hang on. They are our elected representatives.
Sure.
They took a decision, and now they're trying to wriggle out even of that.
But I'm not, in a way, I'm going right back to the days before it all, Nigel. You powered this thing forwards, and here it's become a train wreck. It really has, hasn't it?
That's because our political class cannot accept the idea that we become an independent country. They haven't got the vision, they haven't got the breadth, they haven't got the imagination, and clearly none of them are looking over the channel and seeing what's happening in France right now, what's happening in Italy right now. You know, the European Union is about to go through a massive wholesale change. Here's our chance to lead the way to a better Europe of sovereign countries working together.
Right. We know two things about the House of Commons. The first thing we know, or think we know, is that they don't like Theresa May's deal. So that's basically going to be gone today.
Yeah.
The second thing we know is that they won't vote for a no-deal Brexit. Now...
Well, they already have.
Well, they voted for Brexit on March the 29th.
No. If you read Article 50, it says that you trigger Article 50.
Yeah.
There's a 2-year process. Either you have a withdrawal agreement or you just leave. That is what 500 MPs voted for. That is what they should honour, but I agree with you, they won't.
OK, but the problem here, surely, is that when you sold Brexit to us as a nation, you didn't tell us what kind of Brexit. And there are many different kinds, because there's a no deal, there's a Brexit with a deal.
No. Very simple. We want to govern our own country. We want to make our own laws, control our own borders.
It's not simple, Nigel. That's the whole point.
It's very simple.
It's about tariffs and it's about relationships and everything.
We didn't vote for a series of deals. We voted to leave. And Article 50 actually helped us in that because it gave us 2 ways of leaving. One was a withdrawal agreement, the other was on WTO terms. And that is what 500 MPs voted for. And what you are seeing in Parliament is a complete betrayal of the greatest democratic exercise in the history of our nation. OK,
well, it's just this is all featuring on Channel 4 at the moment in a drama called Brexit, an Uncivil War, one-off drama. Benedict Cumberbatch, and he's not playing you, he's playing Dominic Cummings, and you're played by Paul Ryan. So let's just see how Nigel figures in this drama.
Stay. Lead.
Said I'd resign. People come back from the dead all the time. Look at Jesus. He only came back twice. It'll be my third. Now, look, this referendum, it's going to be a Tory-led Westminster operation with us lot being edged out. Me! And I've been my whole bloody life fighting for this, and I can't let that happen. And I won't. All right? All right. Let's go and crash. What? Let's make the right bloody mess.
Did that happen? Did Aaron Banks jump on the car?
What a load of old cobblers.
Shout freedom.
I have never drunk vodka in my life. I'm very upset. I mean, the very idea... I mean, isn't it funny, isn't it? It's classic, isn't it, of so much of the media establishment that anybody that's got a voice and a view that is outside the mainstream is portrayed somehow as being a drunken yobbo and a lout. I've got many faults, but I don't think I'm either of those things.
Right. Did you say even Christ came back only twice?
Of course not. It's just a lot
Would you
of
consider...
old
Would you come
cobblers.
back as UKIP leader? Because you might find Brexit is cancelled at this rate.
Well, there's a possibility of us being made to vote again, and I think that's what is increasing in chance. If you look at the history of the European project, whether it's Denmark or Ireland, when countries reject democratically integration and power to Brussels, they're always forced to vote again. So I'm beginning to think that's perhaps where we're headed.
And you've said on this programme before that actually you'd be in favour of a second referendum.
I'm not in favour of it, but if it happens, I will accept it and fight it, and we'll win again, and I suspect we'll win the next one by an even bigger margin.
Will you run the big bus with the famous untruth on it?
Well, I never did that in the first place, so...
it was untrue, wasn't it?
You'd have to... no, it wasn't untrue, it was exaggerated.
350
It was a gross figure, not a net figure, and it was a mistake, and I fought against it hard at the time.
Right. Okay. But would the bus come out again? Or the people are wise to that?
Actually, if you go around, if you go into Westminster today, you'll see a Leave Means Leave bus going around Westminster as we speak. But, you know, I will. If there is another referendum, I will throw myself fully into it.
OK, we'll open this up in a moment, but just one more thing on the whole temperature of the debate. It's been very alarming for people to see some of the names that people are called. You are as well, I know. Anna Soubry, we could see some pictures of her. She was outside Westminster giving an interview here. Let's have a listen.
Well, apologies too if you're offended by what you're listening to.
I just think this is astonishing. This is what has happened to our country.
OK, so
I'm sorry. They shouted nasty things at her. My children were attacked. Our car was written off. I was hit over the head with placards. I had to live with 24/7 security. Not a single prosecution was made of anyone that attacked my children or my family. The blessed Anna gets called a Nazi and a bloke gets arrested. I mean, once again, you know, we're not dealing with things in this country on an even-handed basis. Now, there is a risk. There is a risk of some level of civil disorder, but we have to be seen to have the police and everybody behaving even-handedly.
But is there not? Is this a toxic situation?
Well, I think politicians need to be prepared to take abuse, not physical intimidation, but abuse. And being called names, I think, is part of being an elected politician, and it always has been, and we shouldn't let it worry us.
OK, so, we're seeing the Anna Soubry pictures here. We'll talk a bit more, a lot more about this with Nigel after the break. We're asking, should Brexit be scrapped now? Theresa May has already warned it's her deal or no Brexit. But if it's not the deal the public wanted, should we just call the whole thing off? Or maybe, as Nigel suggests, could happen, a second referendum. 0207 862 2222 is the number you need. Do call. We'll hear from the panel first. Welcome back. We're live on Channel 5 with Nigel Farage, Jamelia, Barbara Want and Mike Parry. Later we'll be asking whether there should be a maximum age for voting in elections and referendums, and should we have a super tax on white bread to encourage more healthy eating. But first, I'm asking, should Brexit now be scrapped? It's the day of the big vote. MPs will get to have their say on Theresa May's deal. After years of negotiations and wrangling, it's come to today, what is expected to be a huge showdown in the Commons. It's all over the front pages this morning. The Daily Mail urging MPs to put your country first. The Mirror says it's time for the Prime Minister to look for a plan B. A bit late for that. A number of MPs, including Boris Johnson, have already been urging their wavering colleagues to stand firm against Theresa May's deal. And yesterday, an embattled Prime Minister made a statement reminding them that her deal is the only deal, and to vote against it risks Brexit altogether.
People will look at the decision of this House tomorrow and ask, did we deliver on the country's vote to leave the European Union? Did we safeguard our economy, our security and our union? Or did we let the British people down?
All right, so it looks as if she will lose tonight, and then you're in a situation where Brexit's been automatically triggered for March the 29th, but there isn't any kind of deal. So, Barbara Want, at that point, would you just cancel Brexit?
Absolutely. Brexit is a total disaster. We should scrap it. Simple. Nobody is happy. And what I find really depressing about listening to Nigel Farage is that he blames everybody but himself. He blames the media, he blames the politicians, and he reduces the whole debate to slogans. Will of the people, betrayal.
Democracy, how about that?
There you go.
Is that a bad word then?
I think democracy is
Clearly, you've clearly got no respect for it.
I have a lot of respect for democracy.
Really?
Yes, I do.
So scrap Brexit?
Scrap Brexit. What the government decides to do after that is up to the government. But it is an absolute disaster. It reminds me of those, when sat-navs first came in, do you remember how people would be reported as driving through a country lane because the sat-nav said, you must keep going, and then they'd come to a river, and the sat-nav didn't show it. It said, you must keep going. People drove into the river and lost their cars.
Is your point, Nigel, like that if we voted for it, the vote stands no matter what?
Well, I mean, it's very interesting to hear this argument against the democratic will of the people. All I would say...
Will of the people.
All I would say to Barbara is this, that when you get states where the people that make the big decisions are not directly accountable, where they can't actually be fired by the electors, it's in a situation like that where you get tyrannies and you get bad things being done. And I think one of the great arguments actually for Brexit was that we shouldn't be governed by Monsieur Barnier, by Mr Juncker. And when you think about it, You know, we have got the longest serving continuous parliament in the whole of the world, the mother of parliaments. Our democratic system has been a model for the whole of the world as we've decolonised, and you are suggesting that in this extraordinary exercise where Parliament said to the people, you make a decision, we'll abide by the result. I mean, if we become a country that turns our back on democracy, what are we in the world?
Nigel, you talked about being unable to fire people. Well, if Brexit is a disaster and you, as the proponent of Brexit, are still around, how do we fire you?
Oh, very easy. I will. Very easy. Very easy indeed.
Fire
Very
you
easy
from what?
indeed.
Fire you from what? Because you don't
Brexit...
actually have a job after next March.
Well, hang on a second. If Brexit's scrapped, there'll be European elections on May the 23rd. And these
so you think Brexit might be scrapped?
No, I said if Brexit is scrapped as you want, then these good people in the room can decide on May the 23rd to vote for me or to get rid of me. It's quite simple. But you can't get rid of Mr Juncker. You can't get rid of Monsieur Barnier. And that is why, Barbara, all over Europe, tens of millions of people are rising up against this form of European government.
Go on, Jamelia, let's have a comment from you.
I just think that you are completely ignoring the fact that it has been a catastrophe. It is not what the people voted for.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
So if you agree with that,
Mrs May's made a mess of it.
Yeah.
A total mess of it.
Yeah, but
it's not really Brexit.
But how and why are you absolving yourself from any responsibility?
I volunteered.
Played a huge part in
I volunteered after the referendum. I volunteered. I said to the government, I would like to help you with the Brexit process. I don't want a position, I don't want a rank, and I don't want paying. But I will help you with this, particularly by going around Europe and by trying to get pressure on European negotiators to go for a sensible free trade deal.
You think they'd listen to you
no point
after the way you've spoken about our fellow Europeans?
Well,
you've disgraced
us
in
love
the
Europe.
European
I love
Parliament.
Europe. I hate Euro bureaucrats.
You've disgraced
It's a very
us
big
in the
difference.
European Parliament.
The head of the
dreadful
European
man.
Commission, you said he
There
had
you go,
all the
you're
charisma
disgracing-
of a damp flannel.
What benefit is
hang
there
on.
for going round slagging off our fellow Europeans?
Compared to what happens in Prime Minister's
OK, Nigel,
it's irrelevant.
Mike, you come in.
Well, that's just a comment on a fellow, European politician. I saw a cartoon this morning which sums it up for me, OK, one of the papers, and there's a guy walking down Whitehall and he's got a banner and it says, know your place, plebs, OK? And this is a guy who is a Remainer who is basically telling all those who voted for Brexit to shut their faces and get out of it and know their place. And that's what irritates me about the whole programme, the whole of the way it's gone ever since the go and get out vote has come. I mean, when you got people like Tony Blair travelling into Europe to see European politicians and advising them how to help screw up the Brexit vote in this country, there has been treachery abroad in this country. Treachery from politicians who were asked to go and get a Brexit deal done, get us out of Europe, and who have simply not done that. They've done the opposite.
This is the language. This is the language of playground spats.
Why is it playground? Why? What facts have I got wrong?
There's so much misdirection.
It is treachery.
And you're placing
it is treachery.
attention
A
on
former Prime Minister.
Sorry,
you speak.
I'm just saying that there is so much attention being placed on the wrong things. At the end of the day, what was voted for has not been delivered and has no chance of being delivered. And so we have to have an opportunity to have a referendum. That's the only way forward.
Hang on. Mrs May's deal gets rejected tonight. We all agree on that, all right? Article 50, which 494 MPs voted for, is very simple. It says we have a withdrawal agreement or on March the 29th, we leave on WTO rules. So why don't we, if we're proper Democrats and a proper country, honour that by leaving on WTO rules?
I'll tell you why.
OK, well, Barbara, explain why, because at the moment, that is what, just for people watching, it's not that nothing will happen. The default now is no deal. March the 29th, we're out. So, Barbara, what's wrong with that?
I'll tell you what's wrong for anybody watching this or anybody trying to work out if that is a good thing or a bad thing. We are being told by Jacob Rees-Mogg, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. At the same time, Dominic Grieve, two men in the same party, tells us it's national suicide. How are we supposed to know about what it might be? The risk, if one is right, if the risk is too great, and everything does suggest that there is a risk, I do not see why we should sell this country down the river and put people's jobs, their health, their daily lives in jeopardy. Why take that risk?
Yeah, but nothing's happened so far that was going to happen. The Project Fear never, ever happened. You know, old Osborne, the former Chancellor, telling us there were going to be hundreds of thousands of people out of work, that inflation was going to soar, the pound was going to collapse out of sight. None of that happened.
Pound did collapse, actually.
It's recovered very well since, and the economic figures in this country are the strongest in Europe.
Let's just, because there is a preponderance of expert opinion, you'll laugh, Nigel, that says...
We should join the euro. That's right.
Yeah,
if we don't join the euro, we're finished. I remember them very well.
Oh, sure.
Same people.
All right, so they're warning, right? Now, what do you say to people? There are people watching TV genuinely anxious at this moment in our country's history who think no deal will be very bad.
There are two things here. Right from going back to the 1970s, from the con job that got us into the common market until today, what you have are big global businesses and their friends in career politics trying to use economic arguments to frighten us to say we must be part of the big club. The honest truth is, I think with the WTO Brexit, we can become more competitive, more global and make more money. Dominic Grieve, as Barbara says, thinks it'll be an economic disaster. Who knows whether he's right or I'm right? The answer is nobody. But what I can tell you is this.
So you agree nobody knows what might happen? Is that good enough?
Well, if nobody knows? If you can tell me who's going to win the 3:30 at Doncaster this afternoon, I'll be very, very pleased to hear it.
Because Barbara says, why take the risk?
Why take the risk?
Because you take the risk either way. You take the risk either way. The risk is that we stay part of a European Union that's now imploding upon itself. And it is. Economically, it's a basket case. If the Italian banks go bankrupt, we could find ourselves on the hook for tens of billions of bailout money. So there's risks either way. Let me tell you what WTO Brexit does do. It delivers independence. And above all, that vote in that referendum was for us to become an independent, self-governing, democratic nation.
Well, now that is
and that needs to be delivered.
Can I just mention that referendum and this will of the people? Did you know that since the referendum, 1.2 million people have died? Most of them were older, and most of them were highly likely to vote for leave. In that same period, 1.4 million people have come of voting age.
So what?
Yeah, but that's very presumptive.
So what?
You can say that with every election.
Those are hugely likely to want to stay.
This is a concept.
I do know that.
That's a figure.
No,
it's not.
That statistic is very important.
All the people who die are not...
Of an analysis by YouGov.
You're trying to make out that doddery old pensioners all voted, for Brexit. They've all died. Loads of people. How do you know? Have you asked them?
Listen, we're talking about it next. We're talking about this.
Whatever happens, Brexit is here. Whatever we do, it's here to stay. We're going to be having this argument for years, and I think that is tragic.
Well, it'd be very interesting because Nigel did raise the possibility of a second referendum.
Well, I don't want
maybe
it.
Maybe it was me, who raised it, and you said it could well happen.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jamelia? Second referendum? Do you think it'll happen? Just your sense of it?
I think it needs to happen.
But Jamelia, would you accept the outcome of it if it was the same as the outcome of the first?
Do you know what?
You clearly don't want...
Because to me, that is a vote that people are making now that they know the facts.
So would you absolutely accept it?
So yes, I would accept it.
If it was Brexit the second time, you would absolutely accept it.
Why is there so much resistance? Why is there so much resistance?
I don't think there is.
So would you accept it?
Because Jamelia will not accept... You will not accept the outcome of the first vote.
I'm not.
So I want to know whether if there's another vote, you will.
Because those votes were made under duress without the necessary information.
Just pause. We'll come back to it, OK? It's always like this when you're in a studio.
Well, it does help.
Yeah. Rezi, have you got comments? I bet you have.
Yes, lots of varied comments, actually. I've picked a couple. So Dell's tweeted in to say, no, Brexit shouldn't be scrapped. Theresa May should be fulfilling her party's election manifesto pledge and delivering a proper Brexit, not the surrender she's trying to force through. But William says, of course it should. Brexit was sold on a lie and is undeliverable. As we can now see, it will make us considerably worse off economically and culturally. Do you agree or disagree? Why not give us a call?
Well, a lot of it is guesswork, isn't it, at the moment? After the break, we'll take your calls on this. Is it time to scrap Brexit? You tell us. You tell Nigel what you think. 0207 862 2222 is the number you need. Stay with us. We'll see you in a mo. In all our diaries. Hello again. Nigel, Jamelia, Barbara and Mike are with us this morning. Later we'll be asking whether we should have a minimum age for voting in elections and referendums. We're going to take your calls in a moment, though, for Nigel and our panel on whether we should just scrap Brexit because it's caused so much trouble. Just to go back to you and your future, though, first, Nigel, you've ruled out rejoining UKIP as leader or becoming leader, is that right?
Yeah, UKIP's gone in the wrong direction. You know, when I was leader of UKIP, nobody that had ever been a member of the BNP or the EDL could even be a member. I wanted to make sure we kept the extremes out of it, and I'm afraid since I've left, they've let all sorts of people in. I think it's damaged UKIP's brand, and that's a shame, because UKIP right now could be a major voice, given the mess we've got in Westminster. As I say, if there's another referendum, I'll be there. If there's another European election, I'll be there, and I'll be judged.
Well, you will stand to be an MP, to be re-elected if we're still in the EU.
If we're still in the EU, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. I mean, I'm a businessman. I came into politics, but I felt so strongly about this issue. I'd much rather never be involved in politics again. Brexit get delivered. We get on with our lives. But I fear I've got a few more battles to fight.
Would you try and get into the House of Commons again for...
I just don't know.
How many times have you tried so far?
Well, I don't know, but I'll tell you...
Seven.
But I'll tell you what I did do in 2014. I set a record that hadn't been beaten since 1906 of winning a national election, not being Labour or Tory party. So it's not bad. The real problem, Jeremy, is this. We have a first-past-the-post electoral system where people aren't voted in on merit. It's a presidential system. You either like Corbyn or you don't. And I think we need not just Brexit, but we've got to get rid of the House of Lords. We need major electoral reform in this country. And to try and bust this system of a two-party state, very, very difficult. OK, so your calls on whether Brexit should be scrapped because the House of Commons has got into such a pickle now. It is the big vote later. We've heard what the panel has to say. Rezi, what are people saying on the lines?
Let's start with Gordon in Hampshire.
Hi, Gordon, what do you think?
Well, Jeremy, thanks very much for letting me speak. I spent my last 15 years trying to help people do organisational change. And one of the things that's important is that you have a policy, you have a plan, you carry out a set of activities, and you deliver the benefits. Triggering Article 50 was an activity, and that was triggered before there was a plan. Now, Nigel here has talked about operating under WTO rules, which means basically a no deal. What was the no deal plan? Why didn't politicians say right at the outside, we're not going to trigger Article 50 until we have a plan? No plan A, no plan B. So if you can't make a plan,
you can't get out.
Then how can you leave the EU?
OK, thank you very much, Gordon. Rezi?
We have Christine in Dorset.
Christine, what do you say?
I don't believe we should. I mean, we should definitely not halt Brexit. I mean, we had a democratic vote, and if we stop Brexit, all those people who voted Remain will be saying, oh, great, we're happy. But then what do we do with every single person who voted to leave? You can't just sweep them under the carpet and say, go away. The other thing is, what is most annoying, it doesn't matter who would be negotiating. Europe is not going to give us a good deal. They will never give us a good deal because they don't want us to leave. And all the members of Parliament and the politicians, when they triggered Article 50, should have been working together to get the best deal, instead of the Remainers doing everything they could to sabotage the fact
Barbara, is that what happened, Barbara?
I hear this a lot. The Remainers sabotaged it. I genuinely don't know, Christine, what you're talking about. And you mentioned Remainers would be happy and they'd celebrate if Brexit was scrapped. Actually, I think we've gone beyond that. I think the nation is hugely divided, and I don't think we can go back on that divide. I think there's a lot of healing to do. You also talked about, if that happened, leavers would be swept under the carpet. Well, do you know what? The problem with the referendum is that 52% at the moment has become 100%, and 48% has become 0. We are all people in this nation. We all count whichever way we voted, and that's not happening in the political discourse.
OK, Christine, thank you. Rezi?
Ian from Lancashire is on the phone for you now.
Ian, what do you want to say to Nigel Farage here?
Oh, well, I could say a lot, but anyway. No.
Go on, you're on a day. This is your moment.
Oh, well, I'll come to that, Nigel. Right, as far as I'm concerned, I am absolutely fed up to the back teeth of people saying that this was a democratic vote. Yes, all right, there was a vote and it was held in a democratic way. What? The problem I've got is that actually 27% of the electorate voted for Remain, 25% 27% voted to leave, 25% of the electorate voted to remain. The rest didn't vote or spoil their ballot papers. So my point was that right at the very beginning, almost like a census, because this is so important to this country and the future of this country, I believe that, in fact, we should have almost had like a census, and it should have been a compulsory
So
vote.
force people to vote. OK, well, Nigel,
Yeah.
Nigel, 27%.
No, he's wrong. It's 37, but number
37.
No, it's 37% of one section of the country. He's
That's right,
talking about the number of
I said
people
37,
in
not
this
27. No,
country.
let's not split hairs. Look, the point is, it's 37, not 27. All right, I'm right. End of conversation.
Okay.
Here's the point. That's the system we have. If you think we should move to a situation of compulsory voting, I have to say, in many ways, I find that objectionable. I don't want the state. I want to live in a free country where we can decide whether we exercise our vote or not. And I think that's actually rather important.
Yeah, and Ian, by the way, I mean, a lot of people didn't vote because they didn't get out of bed or whatever. That's their lookout, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So-
But the problem I've got is, the point that I've got is that on the ballot paper for the Brexit, there should have been prefer not to say.
OK, Ian, thank you very much. That's not going to help. Mike.
Ian, I didn't vote. And I didn't vote because I didn't know, referring to what Nigel said earlier, I didn't know whether I was going to wreck the country by voting to remain or wreck the country by voting to come out. So I didn't vote because I didn't want to be responsible for smashing the country up, OK? However, I'm in support of those who did vote for Brexit because I'm supporting the democratic process, not because I necessarily feel it's the best thing. And I accept Nigel's view that staying in could be equally as dangerous.
Right,
We were reading only this week that Germany might be going into recession.
But do you believe that they got what they voted for, that they voted...
They voted to get out of Europe.
Do you think they voted with their eyes wide open? Do you not think things have changed?
The process of getting out of Europe is not yet complete. They voted to get out of Europe.
Thank you all. We're going to pause for a moment and move on in just a minute or two. Before we do, it's time to say goodbye to Nigel. So you're heading off now.
I am.
You're not going to talk about white bread?
Oh, gosh. Do you know what? All I'll say is this. Cigarette taxes, beer taxes, sugar taxes. We're overtaxed already. That's what I
OK, thank you for being with us. Mr Farage here. And later we'll ask if there should be a tax on white bread, but after the break, should we introduce a maximum voting age? 0207 862 22 is your number. See you then. Thank you.